Sustainability Advisory Committee on the 5th of May at 7 o'clock. This is a virtual meeting. And as part for the, due to the emergency of COVID-19, I just need to read the statement out so that we all understand the situation. So good evening, everyone. As chair of the Sustainability Advisory Committee, I, Chetna Palmer, am declaring that an emergency exists, and I am invoking the provisions of RSA 91-A23B. The federal, state, and local officials have determined that gatherings of 10 or more people pose, am I reading the right thing? Yeah. Pose a substantial risk to our community in its continuing efforts to combat the spread of COVID-19. In concurring with their dissemination, that this meeting is imperative to continue operation of town government and services which are vital to public safety and confidence during this emergency. As such, this meeting will be conducted without a quorum of this body physically present in the same location. At this time, I also welcome members of the public.
I plugged in, so they won't hear you.
Accessing
they will.
This meeting remotely.
Plugged in, so that.
Even though this meeting is being conducted in a unique manner under unusual circumstances, the usual rules of conduct and decorum applies. So let me start by asking a roll call of attendance. So please, can each member state their name and then state whether there is anyone else present in the room or during the meeting. So I'm Chetna Palmer, I'm the chair for the Sustainability Committee, and I'm alone in the room.
Christopher Zygmunt, member of the committee, and I am alone in the room.
Hi, this is Kristen Osterwood, and I'm definitely not alone in the room. I have a husband and 3 children.
I'll go. Dave Sharples, not on the committee, but the town planner. And I am by myself in this room.
And Nina, you're muted. So if anybody's trying to speak, you're muted.
You have to unmute yourself.
It looks like Beverly's muted as well.
Bev should be able to talk now.
Thank you. I am alone in the room. Beverly Chapman.
Nico. Oh. Hi, Bev.
It doesn't matter.
Did we find Nina?
Right. Can you hear me?
Yeah. There we go.
Okay, now you can hear me. Okay.
And see you. Hi, Nina.
I have to. Hello. I have to do it on my phone. So I'm Nina. I'm a member of the committee, and I am alone in this room.
And finally, I'm Nico Papakostandisa. I'm the select board rep to the Sustainability Advisory Committee, and I'm alone in the room.
Welcome, everyone.
Oh, I'm Melissa Haley. I'm the Great Bay Piscataqua Waterkeeper with Conservation Law Foundation, and pleased to join you this evening.
Thank you, Melissa.
Welcome.
Since my face is up there, do I need to say who I was, since I didn't know when I logged in that I wasn't on the committee anymore? I mean, it'd been nice to have some communication in advance, but okay, Robin Tyner, and I'm not alone. I've got my son and his friend in the room next to me, which is open to this room.
Okay. All right. So, welcome everyone. First thing, to approve the minutes from the last meeting in April. Hoping that everybody did receive them. Thank you, Chris. Anyone had any comments on those?
Nope.
No.
Can someone motion to approve?
Yeah, I will. I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting in April.
Second, anyone?
I'll second. It's Nina. Second.
And Kristen, I assume you're taking minutes for me? For us?
I am, and I'm abstaining from approving since I wasn't there for this one.
Thank you.
Sorry, I just missed last meeting. Too many things going on.
Yes. Okay. All right. So I think we've got a couple of housekeeping stuff which we can come to with regards to just being told about Robin's situation with the committee. But I don't want to hold up Melissa and her sort of input into what's happening with Great Bay. So, and don't want to keep her too much on the meeting when we try to sort out the housekeeping stuff. So is it okay? Is everyone okay with us going with Melissa to talk about the Great Bay?
Yep, that'd be great.
Yeah. All right. Melissa, is that okay with you?
Now I'm unmuted. Yep.
Okay. All right. So take it away then.
Maybe you could just quickly let me know what are there any particular questions that folks have about the Great Bay total the general permit that's open for comment right through the end of this week, or just so I can answer questions that you all might have.
I didn't include any information with the agenda. So a bit of a recap on the situation and, what people need to do, or what we as a committee can inform people who are watching at home who want to, take some action. So,
okay.
Please give us a brief background and then what the situation is.
Sure. So you all may have heard a little bit about, or a little or a lot about what is called the Great Bay Total Nitrogen General Permit that was issued in draft form by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency in early January. And the concept of this permit has been a long time in development and is really a requirement of the Clean Water Act, because so much of the estuary is still does not meet New Hampshire state water quality standards. So the state of New Hampshire every 2 years has to file a report with the Environmental Protection Agency that assesses the water quality of all water bodies in the state. And the rivers, the 7 rivers that flow into Little Bay and Great Bay, like the Swampscott that flows from your town, all of these rivers and the bays, the Little Bay and Great Bay, and the main stem of the Piscataqua continue to have persistent water quality problems that force the state to designate these water bodies as impaired. And impaired is a technical term, a regulatory term. And if a water body is impaired, then by definition in the Federal Clean Water Act, the Environmental Protection Agency is required to try to control the sources of pollution that are contributing to those impairments. Now, you all well know that Exeter has a consent decree with the Environmental Protection Agency to do your part. You were issued a permit to upgrade your wastewater treatment plant, which you've done beautifully, and have gone online recently. And but there are 12 other wastewater treatment plants that contribute to the Great Bay Estuary. And many of those have very antiquated permits. So EPA has been under a great deal of pressure to finalize permits for all the municipalities in the estuary, like Exeter, Newmarket, and Portsmouth. Those three have current permits that have required, in all cases, these communities to invest in substantial, massive upgrades of wastewater treatment. So the driver for this general permit was that there are a lot of outdated permits in this area that are part of the problem that we see in this estuary. But many of the communities over the years have been saying, Durham and many of the communities have been saying, we know that we can upgrade our wastewater treatment and reduce certain kinds of pollutants. The pollutant that we're really talking about here is nitrogen, which is not the only cause of the impairments, but it's a significant, it's a very important cause of the impairments that we see. So communities have been saying, why can't we have EPA allow us as communities, as municipalities, to figure out where we can get the most nitrogen reductions for our taxpayer dollars? And if we can do that at the wastewater treatment plant by, like in the case of Exeter, investing $56 million and in your plant, we'll do it there. But maybe by doing a much better job at managing the other major source of nitrogen pollution in the estuary, which is stormwater. All the water that runs off of parking lots, roads, lawns, roofs, all of this stormwater runoff carries a very high concentration of nitrogen. And that runs into wetlands, into streams, and eventually into the Great Bay. So controlling the nitrogen, reducing the nitrogen pollution from stormwater is the other very significant way that we can try to get a handle on this pollutant that's plaguing our estuary. So what EPA has done in this total nitrogen general permit, that's the name of this permit, is told the municipalities, the ones that have wastewater treatment plants like Exeter, that, okay, you have to meet a certain limit, effluent limit at your wastewater treatment plant, but you can also take this optional pathway and reduce the nitrogen pollution in stormwater as a way to integrate, to decide where each community can get the most bang for the buck. And so that is the permit that was released in January. Initially, there was a public hearing on the permit in mid-February. Initially, the deadline for public comment was the beginning of March. It was a 60-day public comment period. That was extended to the beginning of April because many municipalities requested an extension in order to have more time to formulate, their response. And then because of the pandemic, EPA postponed, extended the comment period another month, and the comment period now closes on Friday. So, it's a very complicated permit, and it will have, it's very unclear, how it will get from this draft, what will happen after the close of the comment period when EPA has to take all of the comments that come in from municipalities and advocacy organizations and, whoever else submits comments and finalizes the permit. And, but if it goes forward, it will have very significant consequences for municipalities. And so it's something, Dave, you may well be, steeped up to this and thinking about the implications. I think there's a lot of planning implications for stormwater management requirements on new development and retrofits, and but the bottom line is that the permit gives communities a very long time to reduce about half of the nitrogen from stormwater, like 20 years. So the permit has a sequence of 4 5-year permit periods, and communities, again, this is in the draft, so it's hard to know how it will all bake out. But in this current draft, communities would have, each 5 years, they would have to reduce by 11% the nitrogen load in their stormwater. And over 4 of these 5-year periods, that's a 45% reduction or a 44% reduction. So the bottom line is that communities have a long time to think about how to do this in a systematic way. And a lot of stormwater management has to do with, well, when you're resurfacing your road, or you're burying water mains or doing road work, you have a capital budget. You figure out what the stormwater components are that you have committed to through this permit, and you bake that into your long-term capital plan. So it's not like the municipalities would have to go and bond $10 million and do all this in 1 year. The beauty of this approach is that it can be done systematically over a long period of time. So that's a kind of very high level sort of summary of what the permit is. And I guess I would say that if you are interested, if anyone in the sustainability committee is interested in commenting, I would, in submitting public comment during the next couple of days, I'd be happy to give you a much deeper dive into what this permit says and what the implications might be for the municipality. So, I know that you've already been doing a lot of stormwater management. I know the Lincoln Street project, and there's a lot of. I don't know all the details of what happens in the community and what kinds of. I believe you have a no net discharge code already in your planning codes, so that new development has to treat all the stormwater on site, not, as opposed to just shuttling it offsite. But these are the kinds of things that would really become paramount for communities to really begin to take seriously. And that is how we are going to tackle this beast of stormwater. Stormwater, the nitrogen pollution from stormwater accounts for 2/3 of the nitrogen load in the estuary. So we've made a lot of progress on the nitrogen coming from wastewater treatment plants, but that only constitutes 1/3 of the total load in the estuary. And so we really cannot really approach the water quality conditions we have to meet water quality standards if we do not seriously tackle stormwater pollution from the 52 communities that are part of this watershed.
Melissa, can I ask a question? And pardon my ignorance. Where can I find a copy of that permit posted to read?
Why don't I can email Chitana the link to the EPA site where you can read the draft permit?
That'd be great.
Okay.
Anyone have any other questions? Or
could you just make sure I get that site so I can put it in the notes?
yeah.
Thanks.
There's also 3 members of the public in as attendees who can click if you want them to be able to ask questions in the meeting. They can, if they want to ask any questions or request to speak.
Is this? I guess I have a question for the Sustainability Committee. But is this kind of water quality concern part of the purview of the Sustainability Committee, or are these kinds of? Yeah, because let me just leave it like that.
Madam Chair, you want to take that one?
Yeah, so I think in terms of, sustainability is a broad umbrella, and I would say that in terms of stormwater and issues, it does affect the environmental issues, and it should be highlighted. And the committee is and should be the vehicle for, getting information out to people on the situation, and working with the other committee members, the other committees as well, together.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question.
Go for it, Nina. Go for it.
Sorry. I was just going to ask Melissa, how can we as a committee support this initiative? I mean, I know that the time frame is for Friday for final comments, and there was a link that I think Robin provided to us that I clicked on, and I read the permit and signed what I need, what was asked to be signed. But how, as a committee, can we get the word out to the community on important things like this?
Well, I apologize for not being more proactive in getting information to this committee earlier in this cycle. But as it's been so chaotic and so on. But I think without necessarily wading into the minutia of the permit and which is, like I say, it's quite complicated. I think what would be especially important is for community groups to let EPA know, and I don't want to tell you what to say, but to express your concern about the health of the Great Bay Estuary and the rivers that feed it, and acknowledge that these places have value, to your community, and that you support, the effort to better protect these natural areas that are sort of our heritage, our culture, our backyard, our identity, and so on. And because I can assure you that there are many people who are opposing any kind of additional regulation. And it's important for EPA to know that communities care. And I think Exeter, by the very fact that this committee exists, that Exeter has been a leader in many ways with fertilizer setbacks in your shoreline zone and your aquifer protection zone and your I think there are many ways in which your commitment to getting a wastewater treatment plant upgraded. I think the community has expressed its concern in many ways for the years, and I think that would be valuable for EPA to know that this isn't. It's not just naysayers out there.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, certainly. I think, I don't know, Chetna, if we could, as a committee, furnish a letter in support of this, send it to the EPA, as well as informing other entities that need to know our support. But I certainly think it would be, reasonable to furnish a letter from this committee.
Madam Chair, may I make a comment?
Of course.
So this is the select board. This was brought to the select board's attention, I believe, back in February. And I know that the town manager, as well as the DPW director, Jennifer Perry, and members of the water and sewer department have attended all of the hearings. And currently they're working with a lot of our neighboring communities together to put together a comment that would indicate that we're all on the same page. And certainly everybody as a citizen has a right to make a comment. But I would say that as a committee, where the town manager and the DPW are already attending, working with other committees, Mr. Dean has been briefing the select board. We're deep in the middle of a regulatory permit process with our plant, that any letter from the sustainability committee should probably be sanctioned by the town manager and the select board before it goes out on behalf of the town of Exeter.
Yeah, I'm not.
Just to be on the same page.
That's up to you. Yeah, of course. And I think, but for sure, Jennifer Perry has been attended some of the scoping meetings. I don't recall whether, I think she may have attended the public hearing.
I know she and Russ both did, yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So, that clearly the town has, there's a lot of skin in the game on this permit. It's a big deal. And so, but nonetheless, it may not be so much as advocating for specific elements of the permit and getting into the weeds on what the committee supports or doesn't support, but the conceptual support for a healthy estuary. Maybe that's something that either you as individuals would choose to articulate or as a committee. But I leave it to you to do what is most appropriate.
So, Nico, may I ask, with the select board, when would they be? Has the letter already been submitted, or?
We just met last night, so we don't meet again until May 18th, but Mr. Dean has presented us updates as he and Jennifer have gone to the public hearings and other meetings. So all of that information, was during past select board meetings and would be in the minutes. But I know currently the update that Mr. Dean gave us just last night was that he's still working with other communities to prepare something to submit for the May 8th deadline. So certainly, if the sustainability committee puts something in writing, that's something that, Mr. Dean could look at. Obviously, the select board are not going to be able to look at it before next meeting. And certainly as individuals, you do as your citizens. I mean, you have that right to opine, but just as a town committee, if you're going to write something representing the town of Exeter, it really should be sanctioned by the town manager and select board, particularly where we have this regulatory permit process ongoing, and because the town has already been quite active in this process.
Okay, so on that basis, can I and may I encourage individual members of this committee and the residents of Exeter, whoever's watching, to sign this petition before the deadline's on Friday, May 8th.
May 8th.
And hopefully we can, I don't know how, whether we can put a link to the petition.
I don't think it's a petition. I think it's just a comment.
Just a comment period, yeah.
So I don't know where we could utilize our Facebook page and put a link on there, maybe, Nina?
Yeah, I'll take what I had received earlier and can put it on there.
Because that, I mean, it would
at least it's a start.
Yeah.
Who would you like me to send information to?
You can send it to me, and then I can forward it on to Nina and everyone else on the committee.
I just wanted to jump in for a second. I noticed that there were some people in the public who were raising their hands earlier. I believe it was Terry Harmon. I don't know if she still had a question or not. It looks like she lowered her hand, so maybe her question was answered. But Jen, if you just want to keep a look on that, you'll see a blue hand next to their name if they want to speak, and then if you want to allow them to talk, we have to give them the privilege, and then you'll be able to hear them. So you can kind of call on people and we'll allow them to talk.
I'm just seeing why I can't see.
At the bottom of your screen, you'll see participant button.
Yeah.
There, yeah.
I didn't have it there. Okay, great.
Look, it looks like she put her hand down, so maybe her question was answered.
Answered, okay. All right. Okay, was there any other questions for Melissa? No.
Well, thank you for inviting me to join you this evening.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you.
Sorry that it was such a short timeline for us to get this out there from the Sustainability Committee, but I'm glad you were able to make it. Thank you very much, Melissa.
Thank you. All right, I will sign off.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Right. The next item on the agenda was communication issues. So I think here we just wanted to just keep on top of the discussions we were having last month with regards to doing a virtual sustainability fair, virtual sustainability information, and Nina was in the process of putting together a website and having looking into getting the URL paid so that we could have a neater web address and so on. So Nina, do you want to fill us in on the situation, and then maybe Dave can then fill in the gaps?
Sure. So we had decided as a subcommittee that we would bring a sustainability fair online and try to execute it via a website. The website would require, it could be set up for free on a platform called Wix, but in order to have a appropriate, URL, you have to pay a website hosting fee, which is $200 a year. So presented that to Dave and asked if we could move forward with that based on the fact that there is some money that we can use as a committee for just sort of miscellaneous things. Then it was brought to our attention that the town would not approve the use of those funds for a URL. Basically, it came down to being assured that somebody could maintain it. So we could set it up fine, but then say next year when there's nobody on the committee who's maintaining it and just kind of sits there and doesn't get updated. So solutions were offered to contribute to the sustainability page on the town website, as well as contribute to the Facebook page that the town is through the town. These are viable suggestions. but I personally and don't agree with them. And seeing that where we are in this here and now today, where we're relying so heavily on digital tools, and the corporate world has been progressing towards digital tools and website build-outs and so forth for the past 10 plus years, and various communities are at different levels, and Exeter is behind on the digital front. So I, rather than moving forward with the suggestions, which like I said were reasonable, but I'd like to push the conversation further on this. One of our charges is in fact communication with the community. And just like Melissa just presented with the EPA, getting that information out to the community is imperative. The town website is not very user-friendly. The search, when you go into a search and you search for Sustainability Advisory Committee, nothing comes up. It's like a page does not exist. If you know that it's under planning, then you can find it. It's about 3 levels down. And it's a nice page. There's some information on there, but it's not something where, say tonight we had Melissa come and talk to us. We have some information. I can go on there and I can update it onto our own website myself. That's just not feasible. And sure, we can pass it on to the town, to the IT director of the town, and get it up there. But we have seen in the past too, there's no really process or policy around communications for any committee. So the information, will get up there as people have time to obviously get it up there. But again, this isn't really addressing the needs of the community.
Yeah.
And so that's just, I'd like to continue this conversation with improving the aspect of communication, not only for our committee, the Sustainability Committee, the foremost, but in general for the whole town. I know that the Communications Committee did have a study done that was completed in January of 2019. And granted, again, since March, things have been under standstill. But even to have a conversation from the Communications Committee, what is the process? Is there a communications process in place? If we were to submit stuff to the website or to the Facebook page that the town owns, what are the guidelines as far as that? Every corporation or most corporations have a communications plan in place, especially when it comes to dealing with social media and those sort of things. There's sort of rules and regulations, and people that are upheld to those rules if they're contributing to those outlets.
Yeah. To comment on Nina's work and all the investigation she did. I mean, at first, a giant thank you, Nina, because I know you've been doing the lion's share of heavy lifting on all that, and unlike the private sector, I'm sure it's less fulfilling in some respects, just because in regard to communication and all the rules within a town or any government, it's got to be challenging. And I know you've run into a lot of dead ends and things. And maybe the question is, I'm reading our committee charge right now, and there are several points that charge number 3, charge number 7. They directly, ask us to communicate to a variety of different constituencies, and I think you're right. I think it comes back to examining how all committees can do this, and who else has this sort of timely need, and maybe it is time for some sort of co-meeting or meeting or attending a communication committee and figuring out what needs to get put forward to sort of modernize how we communicate. As an aside, as a citizen, I mean, it's, we always want to be encouraging our neighbors to get as involved as they can in their town and town government and have a voice in things. And it's, as every citizen knows, you're so overwhelmed with information and communication on so many devices. Any given day at my job, I'm using WhatsApp, text, Skype, Google Hangouts, Zoom, two different emails, all sorts of things. Plus people send me messages on regular social media. That's just in my job. And you come home and you try to learn what your town's doing, and it's really difficult to ascertain all of the news and all the moving parts. And so I do think it's incumbent upon us, and then bring it to and work with the select board and the other committees to figure out as a town how we can better inform and keep people up to date. Because I'm afraid we're going to keep having frustration, and all the different committees' work's terribly important, and we'd love to have more public input and feedback on it, and we just can't get the voice out there. It's just it's a slow and difficult process. So I don't know, and I'll turn to maybe Dave or Nico to comment on how we can work with the other committees or the select board to examine a modernization. And I know there's rules and regs and laws we have to follow within, but there must be a way to modernize.
If I could just jump in real quick with it, because I'm one of the staff people on the the Communications Advisory Committee. So I'll just say we do still have some openings if anyone's interested, because I think all the stuff you guys are talking about, that's really like what that committee is tasked with really looking at and examining. So, I actually had an interview with the committee last night, but I never received communication as to how to get on to that meeting. So I missed it. So next week or the following week,
I did too. I did for a different committee. I didn't get any communication about how is this interview. So I'm with you on that.
So, sorry about that, but yeah, so that committee is really looking at all that stuff. I can say where they're at now is, we had I believe a fellow or someone who's doing a master's program at UNH, and they did a study kind of looking at, it was examining within how we communicate to each other and out as departments. It didn't really take into account any sort of input from the public. So that study was released, and I could forward that to anyone who wants to take a look at it. But where the Communications Committee is looking at doing another sort of study of how does the public like to communicate, and then we can go forward from there on, how to forge ahead with stuff like the website, social media, and hopefully that'll inform all that stuff. So, I'll say it probably will take some time, because it can't just be quick decisions to how we're going to do this, because that's how we get into a lot of issues, especially with social media. Because I can say we have too many social media accounts on the town. That's how I feel, at least. But, well over probably close to 30 different accounts, and some of them haven't been touched in, years, or some of them are used every day. So that committee is kind of looking at how can we best do all that stuff. So, if you guys have input or something, I'm sure you could send it over to them. I don't know when our next meeting is going to be, or who the select board rep on that committee is. I don't know if you can go sit on that yet, Nico, but they're definitely looking at all those things. I'll say currently I'm kind of helping to run the town website and the Facebook. So I know the website is clunky, and we're kind of going to work on some ways to teach people how to use it, because I know exactly where to go to find the thing, because I know how it's set up. But yeah, when you search it, it's like the second hit is the Sustainability Advisory Committee on there. So the first one is like a Sustainability Advisory Committee meeting, but it is there when you search it, and then it just has your whole charge on there, and then it links to the Sustainability Exeter page that we set up with Dave Sharple. So the stuff is there, but the website is like a repository of all information from the whole town. And a lot of that stuff has to be up there for legal reasons, but it's not as dynamic as, a company's website. So, but we can try and take input and try and improve it as much as possible. And if you have stuff you want to post on the town Facebook page or other stuff, you can send that to me and I can try and get some of that stuff out there. Do that with the Energy Committee, who has a page. They're the only committee who has a page that, well, now it's managed by a staff member, but that's kind of how we went forward with that. But I'll let Nico talk more about from the select board point of view of all the policies and all that.
Sure, Madam Chair, may I comment?
Robin just had a hand up, so I just want to bring in Robin, if that's okay.
Sure.
Robin?
I just wondered, and Bob might know the answer to this. Are you guys looking at a long range and a short term or interim solution? Because I can see the things you're doing sound good. They're obviously not things that you turn around in a week or two, but they seem like a good, solid, long range plan. But then in the interim, this is something I think we've been hearing about and at least for a year that I know of. And so I don't know if there's, you've kind of offered send it to you and you'll take care of it, but it's kind of, that's a big ask for you to be the interim for everybody and everything. But yeah, I know even this committee, like just the look and feel being different than every other committee was something we talked about at 2 prior meetings about having, every other committee is a brief thing at the top, and then the charter is an attachment, but ours is different. It's like there's one in text and another one in the attachment. And I just wondered, is the process for fixing that stuff also on you, or is that a different area?
Could you repeat that last bit again? Fixing which things were wrong?
It was just, we had a discussion about having a standard look and feel across the committees. Like if you click on any other committee, it'll talk about who the members are, maybe a mission or a generic short couple sentences about what they're about. And then things like the charter or things that the not sexy things are sort of down there as attachments, so you can click on it and reference it. And ours is different. Ours is set up different. Yeah,
that's what I don't know who set your page. It probably might have been Sherry before she left, but stuff like that, I can make those edits in a matter of minutes. During your last virtual meeting, I edited the website to add on the sustainability Exeter thing, and I put that on there. Mm-hmm. So editing the website's really easy, and there is some ways you can make it look somewhat more pleasing to the eyes, but it is really, it's designed so everything looks the same from one page to another. So in terms of you can only post one photo or a slideshow of photos or a video. You can't have photos in the text and stuff like that. There's a lot of limitations, but it's designed that way to just be prepackaged for municipalities. And a lot of them use this Unicode as or AHA Consulting is the company that has the website. So a lot of it's pre-baked, but yeah, we can make a lot of those edits, Yeah, and I don't know how the committee wants to decide if there was a point person who works with me to make those edits, and I can clear them with people who, need to check over stuff. But most of that stuff is just cleaning, keeping house type things that it's not like you're changing the committee charge by putting it in a PDF at the bottom rather than up at the top. So we can definitely, and it doesn't take too much time to do stuff like that. Back to your earlier question about the long-term, short-term plan, I definitely think the communications committee is going to, the first task I told them to do is to make a communications strategy is what the town needs. So that first study that Russ had an intern look at is the first step. We need a study of what the public wants, because we may say, all right, Facebook's the way to go. We need to go Facebook, but maybe that's only going to reach 5% of our demographic. Or I'm just throwing out numbers here, but we want to get input from them. And I know sometimes people don't like analysis paralysis, but we need to get some feedback from the public on what they want to use for communication before we invest time and energy into creating anything. Because I would say there's no staff person who is the website person or the social media person. It's just spread out between all the departments. And that's probably going to be the same for the foreseeable future.
Quick question. What timescale would you be in terms of surveying the residents on what because the technology changes so quickly, and the way people absorb information or get information is constantly changing. It's rapidly changing. You know, and I know the town website isn't a sexy website that people constantly go to. You know, they probably go there mainly for things like, you know, when is the transfer station open hours, or, you know, paying their water bill, or looking at hours of the town offices. I don't know, but for, you know, the stuff that, you know, sort of Nina was looking at in terms of the Sustainability Virtual Fair and the information that, as one of our charges of outreach for residents about sustainability and actions and so on, you know, there a lot of people would necessarily not go to the town website for you know, instant information, you know, and up-to-date information, specifically for sort of sustainability, you know, getting, you know, I don't know. That's just sort of top of my head.
Yeah, and I just say, I think that's for the Communications Advisory Committee to figure out those goals and stuff. I'm just the staff person who can help out and offer my expertise, but it's definitely up to that committee and the select board to determine, you know, the best route to go forward, I would say.
Okay.
Hey, Bob. Sorry.
I think Chris had a quick question.
Yeah, only that, I mean, as I think we've just been identifying, let me just figure out how to lower my hand here. Yeah, I mean, obviously the aesthetic of the website is completely secondary to its efficacy in informing the public of things, and, you know, and developing a way to get information quickly to the public. I think the communication committee could in short order, with input from good citizens like some on this committee, come up with a recommendation for the select board on how to modernize some very basic and free tools just to push information out. It's just about getting information to people. I see three, as you pointed out, 3 vacancies on the communication committee, which are poorly communicated. I would guarantee you there'd be, you know, 3 citizens in this town, if they knew that there was such a thing as a communication committee and that there were 3 vacancies on it, would probably put their hand in the air and sign up for an interview. So I think it's not unique to Exeter as a small town. I'm sure it's a nationwide problem, but I think we could probably come up with some things. And I think for this committee, Madam Chair, I think we need to, you know, come up with a short-term plan where we meet our charge, our committee charge, particularly in this case, answering numbers 3 and 7, to communicate the information that we're responsible to communicate with the tools available, but then also to make sure we're attending and voicing and influencing as we can the communication committee to present something to the select board that would accelerate this, because I'm worried about another study, you know. I think Nina and I could probably show up there in 15 minutes, provide some input. So
I have a quick question for Bob. Can we, as far as just a quick little change, but as far as the search, can you make it so that when you do go into the search and hit sustainability or sustainability committee or sustainability advisory committee, can you put those keywords in your search so that the page actually populates?
I'm not sure if I can look into all that stuff, for sure.
Because when you do it now, if you punch in any of those keywords, and then there's a list of items on the site, and not one of those items was our actual webpage.
I just did it a second ago, and if you search sustainability advisory, it's this the first thing is right there.
But where are you? I guess the question is where are you searching from?
On the search bar.
The main page search bar. Okay, I'll have to look at it again. I was having trouble finding it, and then I eventually found it under planning, the planning tab. So if I couldn't find it, and I consider myself, I mean, I work on websites, so I consider myself pretty web savvy, but and I could just imagine, regular people in the community who aren't even aware, who probably, I bet a good survey question would be, how many people in town have actually ever been to the town's website? But anyway, that's something for further discussion. Thank you.
Nico, sorry, I cut you off earlier.
That's okay. I'm going to have to regroup my thoughts. So first of all, I think exactly, there's a communications committee that ideally will get more people to join. And I was excited a couple of months ago when we interviewed and appointed somebody to the committee. And unfortunately, this crisis popped up, and I'm not sure that they've even met yet since the election. But what excited me about seeing Nina's application, and Nina, I was very excited. How did you find out about the openings?
Just because going back and forth with this website issue with us, and then Bob said, here's a study, and by the way, we have space open on the committee.
I was quite excited when we got your application, because I think that much like with Kristen's application for Concom, with the Sustainability Committee, I think that's an excellent branch off of liaison for you with your area of expertise to be able to go to the Communications Committee and come back to Sustainability. And for Kristen, obviously, with her area of expertise, to be able to be that liaison with the Concom, I think that could work out quite fabulously. Bob's correct. The town does have a social media policy currently. That's something that we brought up last fall when we started this conversation. Obviously, the select board is always open to new ideas, to progressive ideas that we can try to formulate within the rules and the guidelines that we need to use as a governing body, as a municipality. Unfortunately, we're not a private corporation, and that doesn't mean that we can't make any changes or enhancements, but we can't move at that speed. But certainly in the interim, while we continue to try to utilize the Communications Committee, we do have the Sustainability Coordinator, Dave Sharples. And I think that during our meetings, if there's anything that we want posted to the website, this is an opportunity. And I think perhaps as you as a committee start to work forward in putting together your agendas, one of the first agenda items, and this would be consistent with how some of the other committees and boards work, the advisory committees and boards work, is to have the town staff member with whom you work closely be at the top of the agenda to kind of go through what he or she has been working on over the last month, to bring you up to date with what's been going on, and then also take some of your ideas, some of your suggestions, and try to start working on those. And certainly encompassed with that is if there's anything that you want posted onto the website, that's something that Dave can bring back and do. The Concom is a perfect example. If you go on the town website under the Concom, they constantly post things on there, and that works quite well. And I know, obviously Dave works somewhat with that committee, and his staff does. So, I think that we can, in the short term, we're talking short and long term, the short term, please let's utilize Dave and staff to post anything on there, and then in the long term, start to move forward. And again, whether it's the Communications Committee or whomever, come before the select board with suggestions, and obviously that's something that we would consider moving forward.
Dave, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, I had offered that in the email. I'm happy to do that. I think we went down the path of that. Maybe the town website, as said earlier, isn't, it's kind of static, isn't, going toward a more robust platform, whatever that may be. But in the meantime, I'd be happy to do that. I've offered to do that. I'm available to do that. What we did since the last meeting was, if you go on our Town of Exeter website, I just did it. You you can either put in sustainability advisory, or sustainability committee. All those three word searches, sustainability advisory committee comes up, and you click on and it's your page. Also, since the last meeting that Bob mentioned, we added the link to the page that I created, Sustainable Exeter. Encourage you all to take a look at it. I think it's a pretty, it's got a lot of good information about sustainability, what the town has done, what folks can do to live a more sustainable lifestyle. So we did that change because I didn't want to do that without the committee's consent, but we talked about it and it seemed like everyone was okay with that last time. So I'll continue to do that. Just if Nina wants to continue to send me, or anyone wants to send me, I can be the clearinghouse, gather that information and make sure it gets up on the website. Just have to review it, like earlier, about the town funding. We can't have any private advertisement for businesses or so forth with public funding. I mean, there's just basic rules that we have to follow. But as long as it meets that threshold, I can post anything that needs to be posted.
So in terms of the sort of information that Nina's put together, and useful links that may help people to be more sustainable in their daily lives, and tips and so on, can they be posted? Or
yeah, anything that I'll look at, because like what was mentioned earlier, because I look first, what's our website policy, and we don't have a very robust. That's the one thing that the communications committee is working on, is kind of create that. But there are some common sense things. But anything that I can vet. And if it's okay and doesn't advertise any private companies and so forth, then, it's not maybe political in nature, like electioneering or something like that, or other thresholds, then I'd be happy to put it on.
Okay. Sally, you have a hand up, one of our attendees. Mm-hmm. Sally, you there?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So it's Sally Ward, resident of Park Street, and I'm a member of the informal working group Sustainability Office Advocates, and we were involved in the original warrant article to create the Sustainability Office. And we've been chatting, and it seems like this is the place to weigh in on what we've been chatting about, which goes back to the job description for the sustainability coordinator. And Dave Sharples, thank you very much for stepping into this role. And we appreciate all of your energy regarding the sustainability coordinator. The issue we have is we had thought that the select board approved the description of the job for sustainability coordinator back in the fall. I checked recently with Russ Dean, and he said no, it had been updated, but it has not been formally approved by the select board. And we're thinking that it would be a good step to formally approve that job description for two reasons. One, it clarifies what needs to be happening with the coordinator, and Dave's doing a lot of that work, but are you being guided by that job description, because it was never formally approved? And number two, moving forward, we know that the Budget Recommendation Committee did not recommend that the position be fully funded, and that sort of took the job description off of the table of the select board. But we're thinking, why not go ahead and approve the position description absent the particular money that's associated with it, which would be a budget recommendation issue. But then we would have the content of that position, and it would be helpful. We think it would be helpful for Dave and helpful for the further development of the sustainability office. And so we're wondering if the Sustainability Advisory Committee would be willing or interested in presenting that to the select board for final approval, recognizing that there are some new members of the select board who were not involved in those earlier conversations. But as it is, the job description is dated, the current draft of the job description is dated October 2nd. And our thinking of the advocates group is, why not move forward with that, absent particular line items in the budget? So that's my comment and question.
Thank you, Sally. Anyone have any input?
I guess I would ask Dave or Nico if that would help make a difference. Dave, would that improve your job function in some way or clarify it?
Or is there another definition now, I guess, is part of that question too, that you're going by?
My understanding is the job description was created for a half or full-time position, like a 24-hour week or 40-hour week when it was signed, and I mean when it was not signed, when it was created. When I was asked or approached to do it, I said, well, this is what I can do, because they offered a $5,000 stipend to my position, and I sent Russ a list of the things that I would do for that, because that job description is commensurate with a position that makes a salary throughout the year. So I've mentioned this to the board before, the committee before. I gave the list. I can do it again. What I told them is what I would be able to do for that outside of my planning duties is take care of the sustainability committee, provide staff support for the sustainability committee, provide staff support for the energy committee, create a sustainable Exeter webpage, create a sustainable Exeter video that I was working with Bob Glowacki, but now the pandemic and social distancing, and we're not going to people's houses and out and about and interviewing. So that's kind of been put on hold. Work with the greenhouse gas emissions inventory, work with the fellowship to make sure we get that. That's a pretty big undertaking and project and data collection and so forth. And I've already started that and did that. And then just continue to seek any grants and just stay up to date on, sustainability issues and basically kind of respond to the committee and what we do and things to implement and follow those. So that's what I thought that was fair of what I would be able to do, given the interim the part-time nature of my position and the $5,000 stipend.
And from my memory, I would say it was seen as an interim position. Am I right? Because the budget committee didn't approve the actual coordinator position.
That was my understanding.
We're taking a step back. When the select board first came about creating the Sustainability Advisory Committee and interviewing and nominating and appointing all of you to the committee, you made it very clear early on that one of the things that you hoped to achieve within the first year was to have a sustainability coordinator position. It went before the Budget Recommendations Committee, as we know. The Budget Recommendations Committee's recommendation to the Select Board was they took it out of the budget. And as we know, the Select Board then has the next stab at the budget, and the Budget Recommendations Committee is an advisory committee. And the Select Board then has the purview to take away or add anything that they feel is appropriate. And ultimately, it's up to the voters, first at deliberative session, and then at the election in March to approve the budget. There's also a public budget hearing before the Select Board in January, and that gives the public an opportunity to come up to go over the budget and all of the warrant articles. I will speak to this because I'm the one that made the motion to put some money into the budget because I believed in what this committee was trying to do. And I did not want to stall this for another budget year. I also felt, obviously, with Article 31 passing, that the appetite of the community was to move forward with this. Mr. Sharples has an incredible background, both in what he's done in Exeter that people didn't know he was doing as part of his job, but certainly in his past experience. He has vast experience in a lot of the sustainability projects that you had all talked about, both into your presentation before the committee was founded and then obviously after the committee. So when I made that motion, not knowing how the rest of the board would feel, I made that in good faith, thinking that, okay, this is a way to move this forward, putting in money that we thought we could put into the budget. Dave is right. I mean, the amount of money that the Sustainability Committee was talking about would have been a different classification code. It was for a part-time or full-time employee. Obviously, we didn't have that money to put in. So I think, Dave, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, you're intimately knowledgeable of the job description. You're aware of what the Sustainability Committee is hoping to achieve moving forward, short-term and long-term. And I think that Dave has been trying to work, as closely as he can through that job description. Where that goes moving forward, I don't know that I would use the word interim. It was a short-term solution of, let's get this moving. Let's start with Dave. If the projects start to advance and then, there's money in the budget, it's put back in the budget recommendations for the following year, and we can bring on additional staff, then obviously that's something to build on. I don't think there was in fact, I'm quite sure there wasn't a specific time period in which we would just have Dave being the coordinator. Looking at what we're looking at this year, and we are so early into the year, it's hard to project. We'll be getting a finance projection at our next select board in May. But I know, looking at this year's budget, with everything that we're dealing with right now, it remains to be seen what money is going to be there, or what projects will be able to be funded. So I think that we need to focus right now on the present into the future, being that right now we're going to work with Dave and move forward. If come August, when the town manager is putting the budget together, if he sees that there's money in the budget to maybe put towards additional spending for sustainability, then obviously that's something he'll put in the budget. It will go through the process again with the BRC and come back before the select board. We want to see this move forward. It is important, but this is going to be a tough year, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm being as real as I can be. It's early in the year. I can't predict what the budget will be in August. I can't predict what the BRC will have to look at in terms of, we're going to be down in revenues this year. It's just too early to tell. But for now, we have an excellent candidate, an excellent employee who's vastly experienced. And I'd like to take advantage of everything that Dave can do for us now.
Yeah, thank you, Nico. Terry's got a hand up. Terry?
As well, yeah.
Terry Harmon, 6 Oak Street. Terry Harmon, 6 Oak Street.
Hear you, Terry. Go ahead.
Thank you. And thanks to Dave Sharples for stepping up. It dawns on me that we should start with what before how, and keep things as simple as we can. I ratify what Sally Ward was saying earlier about a job description. Much of the work, like 98% of the work, has been done by a bunch of volunteers putting together the job description. And my understanding is there were just a few little tweaks that needed to be made. So using this COVID time, when we have time to sit and focus and finish up the job description, sounds like a really good idea to me. So the what is the job to be done? then we talk about how at a later time. And we know that money is an issue. We know that COVID is an uncertain factor in our lives. Another reason is that since the work has already been done by so many volunteers, when the time comes to get a sustainability coordinator, when there is money, when the stars line up, well, all this work will then have it'll make unnecessary so much more volunteer time because the work has already been done. I request that your committee pull out the job description, put those final little tweaks into it, vote on it to approve it as the job description, even though there's no money right now, even though Article 31 is an unfunded mandate, but put the finishing touches on the job description and then take it forward to the select board. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
If we go back, didn't somebody take that for action since it was just a couple happy to glad things? Like, was it changing 3 to 5 years experience to 2 to 5 years? It was just a couple happy to glads, as my recollection, that I thought somebody else volunteered to take action on, and I don't have to go back to the select board.
I think from my memory, it was Rustine was. That's
what I thought too.
Was doing the amendments.
Because we had done it when you and I and Russ and Dave all met, and we went through all of their inputs and consolidated it. We voted on it, passed it. It was just those couple happy to glads, and that somehow the BRC didn't understand that it was at that stage. But
that
but
was all it was needed. It was presented. It was at the select board meeting.
So maybe we just need to ask Russ if he has it, because they were simple. I mean, it was stuff that you could do in 30 minutes, I think, or less, and then just get it done, because Terry makes a good point. That way the work's not lost, even understanding that there's a whole monetary issue beside the fact that may make a lot of things hard in the coming months. But I also know from, 3 decades of, working with government budgets at every level that nobody who does a budget looks at the end of the year and says, oh, golly gee, I got some extra money. What should I spend it on? So you've got to have those inputs coming in throughout the year so that you're trying to get everything in and all the demands that are on you in as best as possible before the end.
Dave?
Yeah, thank you. My understanding for a job description to become accepted through the process is that you need budget approval first. The job gets budgeted, it's in the budget, it gets added to the classification plan, and then a job description is adopted along with it. What I'm hearing is adopt a job description without that. That's my understanding of it. I don't do that part of it, but that's my understanding of that process. But just to back up a minute, because I'm hearing what folks are saying, and I couldn't disagree more. I just wonder, everyone's familiar with the let me advise the Coastal Resilient Grant that we got, that I'm working with Julie LeBranch. That is basically the whole gist of it, is to work on and create a work plan for the sustainability office moving forward in the short term, midterm, long term. Identify all these things, the individual things that we can work on. I let the community, I think I gave this speech to a few months ago, but I had created about, I sat down and brainstormed a list of things that we, the committee could work on. And I got a list of over 50 things, from very small things, regarding community engagement and recycling, to very big things like building deconstruction programs. So I have that list. And I was working with Julie, and that's what we're working on. We're gathering all that information. She just sent an email to Chetna and myself, and I think it was just us two, today, that she's been a little bit backed up at the RPC. So she's still working on something that was going to come back for a presentation. So I mean, I'm happy to have input, but I think that, we are working toward that in defining the tasks. Also, the committee, if there's anything specific the committee would like me to work on, I'd be happy to hear it and can, carve out time to work on a specific, task that the committee may wish me to.
Can I just, so I am sort of finding it sort of frustrating at the moment listening, because I think everything seems to be sort of backtracked or presented in a different way. And with regards to just go back to the job description issue, the volunteers were told that's what was needed by the select board, because there was nothing for them to go on. And in terms of the amount of salary, et cetera, they needed the job description. And myself and Robin, we met with Russ to get the template for the job description, because it had to be, obviously the town of Exeter template. And it was put together and was obviously the Sustainability Advisory Committee. We went through that, and it was presented to the select board. So doesn't matter, the orders the order of what I'm hearing now is that, you need the budget first before you do the job description, but the job description was done before the budget. It's the way
Sorry if you got that. Let me explain. That's not what I mean. What I mean is you were specifically asking about adopting the job description. And that's what I was responding to, when I believe, because I wasn't intimately involved with this process, but during I would imagine the budget committee and so forth and the select board's review, before they consider, or while they're considering to place a potential position into the budget, they would like the job description. And I think that was, I'm not saying anything that shouldn't have been done. That should have been done. That's what they wanted to. What I'm saying now, my understanding, to officially adopt a job description, there has to be the position in the budget to adopt the job description for. Do you understand the difference there? That's my understanding.
Okay, Sally, do you have a comment on that? Your hand up.
You're muted, Sally. You need to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so the conversation of the last 5 minutes or so has clarified, but it's also confused me. And I would just say that I understand what Dave, what you're saying about the process, but it seems to me that, and I don't know what the process is, and perhaps we can't go that way, but it seems to me that the content and the funding are two separate issues. And I think the job description, as the sustainability advocates have been looking at it, is an aspirational document, which doesn't tie it to formal commitment of money, because we know that the money has to be approved by a different process, which is the budget review process. We're looking at this more as a substantive content process. And I think absent an adopted job description, what I understood you to say, Dave, was that you actually are using the job description to prioritize your time, recognizing that you can't do everything that's involved in that job description because it's a 24 to 40 hour a week job, and you're doing that on top of a full-time job that you already have. But you are using it, if I understood you correctly, to prioritize your efforts for sustainability. So if you're using it, it seems like it should be at some level formally adopted or approved. Right now, it's kind of in limbo because we had thought it was approved, but apparently what Russ says is that it hasn't. And let me just add one point about my conversation with Russ. I thought that he had taken all of the input and put all of that into the 10.2 document. So I don't think there's anything more that needs to happen to that document. And it's not I hate to be obsessively bureaucratic about it, but I see the document as being a guidance and an aspiration. This is where we want to get to. And then how we get there is going to be budget related. But in the meantime, we need to know how much of this can we accomplish and what how do we prioritize what's in that job description, recognizing, Dave, that you have a full-time job and you're adding this on to what you're already doing. So I'm very appreciative to what you're doing. It's just, where do we get the guidance and how do we move forward in terms of sustainability? And Nico, you were saying that is what we want to do. We want to move forward, and that it seems like we're all on the same page in terms of our commitment to sustainability. And I'll just leave it at that. I find it a little confusing to link the money with the job description.
May I? 2 points. One is after this discussion, I'll get together with Russ and talk to him about this, because I was simply saying it's my understanding when the select board adopts a job description, it's attached to a job. What we're talking about here is adopting a job description that necessarily is maybe a guidance document for a position, but not specific to any particular position, half-time, full-time position. So let me talk with him about that, and I'll try to get, finalize that. So I think that would, I'll try to get to that. And then we're also working on the grant. So maybe we'll, Chetna, I'd advise you to look what Chetna was sent out a couple of attachments, has a lot of good information about what we're pursuing with the RPC and the grant. Also, if there's anything in the job description that people feel that isn't being done or should be done, and specifically what you would like to do about it, please, I am here I'm available. I would be happy to carve out some time to, work on any specific tasks that anyone might have to, further our goals of sustainability for the community.
Dave, maybe to that too, have the committee look at the document that I believe was presented sometime in October. It would have been before the BRC meeting, which was, I think, the third Friday. And maybe let's identify what you're doing. Let's identify what you're not doing, if you're not doing anything there, and then prioritize from that, for now, what the Sustainability Advisory Committee would like you to do and above and beyond what you're already doing from that document.
Okay, that is a little similar to what we're doing with the grant, but right. We'll try to meld those together and we're and row in the same direction.
So coming back to the procedure thing, because I guess I hear all the different points, and I guess what's frustrating to me is making sure that 3 months from now everyone believes the procedures are the same. Because when we met, we had the meetings, like what Chetna, Russ, Dave, and I all met, put together the document, approved it on SAC committee, took it to select board. There were the happy, the glads. That was September 23rd. And then I guess I'm hearing October 2nd, Russ had finished the couple little happy to glads, but the feedback from the BRC, and unfortunately none of us were able to be there, so we weren't able to correct whatever misinformation had gotten to them. But the feedback from the BRC was, this job description needs a lot of work and it's not ready to go yet, so try again next time. And so that's kind of my concern, because what I'm hearing was Russ did make those little happy to glads. So if there was a reason why they discarded it, it shouldn't have been because the job description wasn't done. But if you're saying that your job description doesn't have to be done for that, there's just a conflict there. And I just want, it's kind of one of those bureaucratic things, but
I'm saying the job description doesn't have to be done.
Well, that's what I thought you were saying, that it didn't make sense to approve one now. And I was just trying to listen to what you were saying and what Sally was saying. Because it seemed
I never said it didn't make sense. I don't know if it makes sense or not. It's my understanding, or I apologize if I said that. That's not what I meant. What I said is my understanding of the process. I'm not involved in approving job descriptions. It's not what they do. It's that's a select board budget committee. They approve that. But just my understanding has always been, just working for government for many years, is like the position gets established. There's a position to attach a job description to. Right. And that made sense to me. That position didn't get created during the budget process as a sustainability officer. I did get named with a stipend, stipend amount as the sustainability coordinator.
What you're saying makes sense to me. It's just not the feedback we got from the BRC. That's where the conflict is in my mind.
Oh, okay. I don't remember what feedback.
They said this job description has a lot of work left to be done in it, but it had already been through the select board and you and Russ and everybody, and Russ had made the changes apparently. So maybe it was just that the BRC had inaccurate information, but the criticism was we don't have a good enough job description yet. And I think that's part of, I don't know, I don't want to speak for Sally, but maybe that's part of the, hey, maybe we should make sure this is done and on the shelf in case we're able to go forward at some point.
Yeah, good, valid point. What I'll do is I'll circle back, like I said.
Okay.
I'll find out where it's at and what can be done moving forward with it and get back to you with what I find.
Chris, you hand up?
Yeah, just thanks. Thank you. Just quickly, I certainly support Sally's point to tune up whatever job description is floating out there and just have it ready to go. But I got to be honest, I support Nico's position and I'm grateful for Dave taking this on. You know, I'm a pragmatist. I grew up with you get what you get and you don't get upset and you make do with what you have. And we've got a great team here and we have a charge and we have to move forward with the charge that we have with the team we have. And I feel like nearly every committee meeting we run backwards about 10 yards and we rehash the same darn thing. And I'm really interested in recognizing the great team we have here. We have, a pretty good outline with the grant work and everything. And we're going to knock down. There's so many more things in front of us than we could humanly accomplish. And I think we have the right team to move forward here. And do we want an improvement? Yeah, but let's not let perfect get in the way of better, right? Let's just keep moving here. Because I think we've got a lot to do, and I think Dave's a great guy and well equipped to guide a lot of this stuff. So that's the end of my comment. I just want to make sure that we recognize we're glad to have Dave on this and keep moving this forward.
Terry, did you want to come in again? Terry,
you need to unmute yourself. Oh, there you go.
That work?
Yes.
That worked.
Thank you, Dave. This is undoubtedly the best thing that we could possibly have given the situation. So thank you. Back to summing up, I think it's what before how. Committee, I request that you take advantage of all the volunteer work that's been done, grab the information, grab the job description, put your final piece on it, vote on it to approve it so it sits on the shelf waiting for such time in the future as it's ready to be presented for the next step. Thank you.
Terry. Okay. Is everyone, do you want to do that at the next meeting for approval of that job description as it stands?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think we should put that on the next agenda.
Okay. All right. Robin, did you want to talk about the net monitoring quickly?
I'm sorry, about the what?
The clean energy, the net, what was it?
Net metering? Yeah.
Yeah, net metering, sorry.
I'm not sure exactly what you're asking me to talk about.
Because you said the Energy Committee approved or were endorsing the letter in support of the common sense net metering expansion. Didn't you send that to me?
I don't think so. I'm sorry. It's not ringing a bell. I think, I had asked about back when the Energy Committee and I think the Sustainability had voted on some positions in support of some of the ballot initiatives. I was just curious. Some of them were in multiple towns where Exeter wasn't the only one. And I know, I was curious about how many of, the 70 towns. Yeah, there was two of them. And if it's 25 and 27 or 35 and 36, it's probably 25 and 26.
It's 25, 27. One was the Granite Bridge. And the other one was the carbon fee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just curious what the net impact was across all of the communities that had that on their ballot but I don't know the answer.
The answer to that, with regards to the carbon, we were part of over 80 towns that voted it in to support it. So the people who were leading it from the Plymouth area, so that they're still sort of going lobbying and going forward with I haven't received any information of late, but that could be a small update that could go on to the town website with the number of towns that voted that in and what the next steps would be if that was if I can get that information over to Nina and then Nina.
I'm curious about the Granite Bridge too, but we haven't had the Energy Committee meeting. So I don't think since the election, just because of all the COVID stuff.
I was going to ask that. So the Energy Committee's been paused during this time?
It has thus far.
Okay.
Nico?
Madam Chair, thank you. As you know, Article 25 passed, and the Select Board invited the author of Article 25 to our meeting, and we have since signed all of the letters and sent them off. I think what you're referring to in the agenda, however, was the chair of the Energy Committee wrote a letter in support of common sense net metering, and Julie Gilman, who's the Select Board rep to the Energy Committee, brought it to the Select Board, and we voted unanimously to authorize me as the chair to also sign the letter. It's not the same letter that Renee wrote. It's the same letter, but on Town of Exeter's letterhead, and I signed it as chair. So.
Okay. All right. Good to know. All right. So, a couple of other updates. So Dave from Julie, who came to the last month's meeting, has been unable to provide us with the information as yet. So hopefully the June meeting, Dave?
I'll be ready for the June meeting. I just, it's a lot up to, I'll ask Julie and hopefully target for that. I'd like to ask her for maybe a timeline on, the tasks and kind of lay out a plan moving forward, like a schedule with due dates of certain deliverables and so forth. And then when I get that, we'll share it with the committee.
Because I think following from last month's meeting, we were also going to, once we'd received the information from Julie, we were going to decide on who wanted to serve as a subcommittee member as a working group for that. So obviously that's still on hold, I guess. I think checking on some of the other updates. One thing I just want to clarify, Nina, would you be our sort of communications person to get info to Dave to put on the website? Can't hear you, Nina.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yes, no, I'd be happy to. And Dave, thank you so much for the sustainability page that you did put up. And I will, when I was talking about search earlier, it wasn't to the SAC page, the main page, it was to your page that was hidden. So I'll send you some edits and then continue to pass through to you the edits, and then I guess you'll get approval. I mean, you'll tell us whether we can post that or not, or if it's posted correctly.
Yeah,
I can't hear you.
I'll do that in a timely manner.
There.
I'll do that in a timely
Okay.
manner. So, if there's some event or something, I'll make sure I, turn it around quickly.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. So we appreciate it. We appreciate all your work. Thank you.
Okay. I had Bev. You still there? You still with us?
It says she's on there as a participant.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, we are. So you wanted to put up.
The concern that I had is very much related to the discussion you had about communications. I asked if, well, let me say that I was happy to learn that there have been tax delays and tax remittances and tax reductions granted to companies or individuals who have invested in conservation or who have invested in renewable energy. And this, it seems to me, is not publicized. Let's say there is a hypothetical company which is currently very concerned about property taxes, but just sees no connection at all between plans for renewable energy or energy conservation and tax levels. Is this the kind of reward that could be publicized in whatever way we decide to go ahead with communications on the website or whatever? Can you make it clear that that the town favors this kind of thing and that some tax adjustments can be made in return for it?
Any, I don't know.
Any response?
Dave? Nico?
I'm not sure I understand her question.
I don't, are you saying some?
Well, you were talking about publicizing on a website or however, communicating with the public. And I'm asking if this understanding can be publicized as part of the sustainability output. Can you say something about the town rewarding invest as you reward for conservation land, for instance, and you have rewarded.
I think. Are you talking about our solar array exemption?
Tax delay or tax reduction, investments in clean energy.
We have a solar exemption in the town of Exeter for taxes, so they don't value you can get an exemption, and any solar panels that are added some towns actually add the value of the solar panels. So if you put a $20,000 solar array, it's actually physically attached and it can be assessed as such. We have a solar exemption where if you add solar to your home, it's 100% non-taxable, not added to the valuation. So we do that. Is that what you're talking about, Beverly?
No, that wasn't what I was talking about.
Okay.
Maybe I misunderstood what I heard or what I learned about taxing in the past. Am I wrong in thinking that there have been no tax adjustments made for any kind of clean energy or energy conservation that have been included in projects?
That's exactly what a solar exemption is. It's clean energy, and it's an exemption from your taxes. So,
but all you do is you're saying that all you do is refrain from taxing it. You don't give any other tax adjustments or favors.
Well, it's the same. I don't know if you refrain from taxing it or
well, that's what
the same thing is a benefit, because if you tax it, then you collect taxes on it. If you exempt it, then you don't collect taxes on it. So it provides an incentive to have those, in this case, solar panels.
But if a company is already very concerned about tax increases and level of taxation, and they're considering major new projects, and there is no tax benefit to be had by investing in this kind of energy, then they're not going to invest in it. And that's the dilemma. That's the problem. And maybe, I guess I'm wrong in thinking that the town does favor and reward. We're talking about sustainability here, folks, but we don't reward it with our tax policies, I guess. I thought we did.
Yeah, I think we do with our solar.
But you're just saying that you refrain from adding new taxes on the new solar panels.
We exempt the value from the
project in the new project, which is being presented to the town for approval. There is no financial advantage to investing in clean energy for the company.
Yes, there is. And for a solar exemption, say if you're a new project and you're looking to how do I, provide energy to, provide myself my energy needs. And I'm going to put a $100,000 solar array on the thing to provide. That doesn't get taxed. So that is a tax incentive. It's an exemption from taxes.
But it doesn't get taxed if they don't do it either. So what happens if they just don't do it?
Yeah, but the value of their property is plus the $100,000 array, for example. So their net capital asset value is up, and they didn't get taxed on it. So you get $100,000, whatever the tax rate is at a particular time of assessment. You wouldn't get taxed for that. So you, on the one hand, have the benefit of the capital asset, but you don't have the taxation against it.
Okay. Well, I guess the problem is that I was mistaken in thinking that there was any other tax consideration. I'm happy to learn about that one, and that's useful to know. Thank you.
Bev. Okay. Any other business comments?
Yeah,
Yes, Dave.
I just want to give a couple quick updates, if I might.
Yes, please.
I think there's a couple of things you might be interested in. One, I'd like to go back to the first item on the agenda about the Great Bay. I'm not talking about the public comment period, but I just wanted to highlight, for folks that may be watching and you folks, what we do in stormwater, because stormwater is a big issue. I think Exeter's been on the forefront of we just spent over $50 million on a new wastewater plant, wastewater treatment plant, one of the most efficient in as far as nitrogen loading in the region, if not the most efficient, I believe. But also on the stormwater front, we're really diligent on that. I mean, I didn't do an assessment of all the stormwater regs of municipalities around us, but I think I'd be hard pressed to find anyone that mandates percentage removals for nitrogen and phosphorus, but we do in Exeter. Stormwater has been my background for many, many years. And we went through an update in, I think, 2017, secured grant funding to hire, work with a consultant. And we mandate nitrogen removal efficiencies of 60%, not only the peak and post rates that Melissa was saying earlier, but we actually mandate that you have to reduce your nitrogen loading by 60% using various BMPs. That's why if you look at any planning board project, you consistently get gravel wetlands, porous paver treatments, bioretention areas, those type of treatments that might be a little bit more expensive to build, but they achieve the nutrient removal, nitrogen and phosphorus removal that's required by our ordinance, where most towns you don't get those type of BMPs because they go with a detention pond and so forth and lesser BMPs because they don't need to meet nitrogen removal. So, I think if anyone writes a letter to the thing, I think, highlighting that, hey, we're walking the walk in Exeter, by requiring certain removal efficiencies for those pollutants of nitrogen and phosphorus. And then just two quick updates. The greenhouse gas emissions inventory, it was a little bit in flux with this, global pandemic, but we pushed for it. At least Exeter was willing to go 100% virtual. I came up with a virtual work plan with UNH that we're finalizing this week. So that will go ahead as planned. The fellow will not be physically in the office with me, sharing the desk next in the cubicle, at least for the foreseeable future. So they did cancel any, contact or actual visiting the site, but I think we came up with a good plan, and we'll be continuing. I think we'll be on schedule to get that done when we said we're going to get it done this summer. So that has not been delayed. I was a little worried about that, with the global pandemic, but we will get that done. The other thing is I can't say too many specifics at this point, because when developers come to me early, I keep confidentiality. But I got approached of a pretty significant solar array project. I mean, very significant. So they're doing their due diligence now. I don't know if it's going to come to fruition, but it's a pretty big, I think, 3.5 megawatt potential display that powers 1,000 homes type of display. So just wanted to let you know. I mean, it's early, but they're very serious in their due diligence. It's not just pie in the sky. They're really seriously considering it, and I'm working with them to hopefully make the process smooth in Exeter and possibly come to fruition, because that's quite a solar project. And it speaks to the net metering, because I think some places we're dealing with Unitil, they're very good about net metering. I mean, there's some spots that this wouldn't, in New Hampshire, that maybe under different utilities would have a tougher time putting that many megawatts together. But it's feasible here. So just thought I'd tell you about that. I hopefully it's a reality, and I'm going to continue to work with the developer to, and then when it comes to, if and when it comes to fruition, it'll go before the planning board and any other boards that needed for approval.
Thank you, Dave. I'm really happy that the fellow is coming through, because I know a lot of other fellow programs have been cancelled. So I'm really glad that you've managed to persuade UNH and do this virtual study, which is essential. So thank you for that. Do you know when? I mean, obviously you can keep us updated, but when it's likely to kick off?
With the fellowship?
Yeah.
Next week.
Okay, that's great. Okay.
Next week. We're finalizing the virtual work plan. I mean, it already kind of has kicked off. I've already kind of, created a data list, a data list task and what we need for data and so forth. But Rachel, our fellow, will be on board next week.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for that. It'd be good if they could attend one of our meetings, give us an update. Would be good to.
Very much wants to. So that was part of the deal. And now, instead of in person, it will be via Zoom.
That'd be great.
But that's how we did the interviews with her anyway. So they're all familiar. Current students are all familiar with this technology.
All right. My one last point, I just wanted to, knowing the amount of work and effort that Nina put in on the website and information, is there any way, I'll leave it up to you and Dave to discuss afterwards, any information that you put on that website that could go onto the sustainability page on the town would be great, I think. So
absolutely. I forgot to mention that. What Nina sent me, that little draft, was just excellent work.
Yeah.
This looks great. So anything I can use, but I'll work with Nina offline to figure out how to get that content. And, but like Bob said, we're constricted to how it looks. It's like a static package. We get this, but I really liked what Nina did.
Okay. And
thank you.
I am really sorry to see Robin go as a member of this committee. So I personally want to thank Robin for all the effort that you have put in, the energy and everything else, and your input is invaluable. I'll be sad to see you leave this committee. And I don't know what else to say. We need more members for sure. And also I need a vice chair. So if anyone else wants to step up to vice chair, it would be appreciated. So yeah, Robin, thank you ever so much. And I was hoping that you would see your term through to the end of July, but you're not.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that till tonight, or I would have definitely told you. But thank you. I mean, I'm not going anywhere. It's still a half-mile jog to your house, so.
That's good. Always up for a conversation.
Right.
Definitely.
Maybe 3/4, but whatever.
Definitely. Okay. Anybody want to volunteer for the vice chair position, or shall we? I don't know. Yeah, should have one really.
I'd raise my hand. I enjoy working with you, and I enjoy the committee very much. I wouldn't mind putting my name in the hat, but I don't know if that's the proper process. So.
Anybody else want to?
I was thinking of suggesting Chris as a candidate.
All right.
I second that. I was going to do that as well.
Madam Chair, you have a motion and a second. I think you can vote on it now. And
Okay, let's vote for Chris to be the vice chair for this Sustainability Advisory Committee. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, unanimous.
Yes.
There you go. Unanimous voting.
here's unanimous.
Oh, great,
Thank you.
I'm honored. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Okay. I don't have anything else. Did anybody else have any other comments that you want to make? Or
I just want to say, really sad to see Robin going as well, and really upset to learn that you can only be on 2 committees, I guess, in town. So good to know that, but really appreciate all her great input and just her excellent background. I mean, it's been
Well,
really nice.
Thanks.
Yeah.
To have you on
I'll
the
keep
committee.
sending you stuff.
Well, the good news is now we can
Yes,
talk to her
please
all
do.
the time because she's not on our committee, so we
You
can
can.
talk to her.
Exactly. Right.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
you
I can send you all kinds of ideas to post and whatever.
I love it. Keep them coming. Keep them coming.
Definitely. All right. Okay, so if there's nothing else, then I just want to say this next meeting will be the 2nd of June. Venue to be decided. We may be in a room or we'll be Zooming again. So 8:59, motion to close the meeting.
I'll second that.
Motion accepted.
Okay.